G'day viewers, and welcome back to Aussie Backyard Food. Well, today we're in the backyard apiary and it's harvest time. Happy days. It's December, early December 2017. It's not ideal weather conditions, but as I'm sure you're all aware, sometimes things don't work out 100% the way you would have planned them. As well as doing a harvest today, I thought it might be a good opportunity to show you a little bit about how I approach my beekeeping. Whilst I did a lot of research before I took the plunge into beekeeping, there's many things that I've learnt since that first day. I would say what I now know compared to what I knew before I started beekeeping, you're probably looking at 95%, 5%. And you know, it's one of those things, you can't beat hands-on experience. And because of the weather, those hands-on need to be covered. Bees don't really like being worked on a cloudy day. I don't like to work them on a cloudy day because it's not as beneficial for the bees. They lose more heat out of the hive while they like to, you know, maintain that 35 degree or thereabouts temperature for their ideal brood rearing conditions. So we'll be quick as we can. We've got to strike while the iron's hot, as they say. One of those things I wanted to talk about my approach to beekeeping, and whilst I did jump in and go the whole Langstroth hive direction, and that sort of commits you to a certain path of beekeeping, certain size equipment, certain shape, size extractor, and I don't 100% regret that. I found I more prefer a Ware style, and I might, if I could do things again, I might go that way. But in saying that, one of the many things I've learnt is just the beauty of a polystyrene hive. And you know, I've just noticed how well this one polystyrene hive does compared to all my other Langstroth hives. And I'll show you just for yourself. I haven't opened this hive for a number of weeks, and but I know they'll be doing well, and I'm hoping to take a good deal of honey from this hive. So one of the things I've learnt along the way is to exclude the queen excluder. This is the queen excluder that came with the polystyrene hive. It's a 10 frame queen excluder, and basically, as the name suggests, it excludes the queen from your honey box or boxes at the top of your hive. And there's certain benefits to that I can well appreciate, particularly if you're a commercial beekeeper and you don't have as ready access to your bees as myself, a backyard beekeeper. But it is a major friggin' obstacle for your bees. Every time that worker bee comes back into the hive, working its little bum off 24/7 to deposit honey above this queen excluder, it has to squeeze its way through one of those many gaps, taking a bit of hair off it, further sort of wearing out its wings. It's wear and tear on your bees. It's another stress to your bees, and if you can do without it, why not? You know, one of the ways beekeepers compensate for that stress on their bees is to feed them sugar syrup. And yeah, I'm not real comfortable with that, and the more I read and learn about feeding your bees sugar syrup that contains no, you know, nutritional value, it's like steroids for bees. They'll go hard, you see your bees accelerate as soon as you add sugar to the mix. But is it good for them? I'm not sure. Anyway, I've decided to go queen excluder free, and that's just my decision. I'm still a relatively new beekeeper, so try for yourself, give it a go, even if it's just one of your many hives. Experiment, because I've found that particularly in a productive hive, the top portion of your hive will always be honey. That's where bees like to store their honey for thermal benefits, an insulative coat, if you like, layer to the elements above the brood to help maintain that 35 degrees Celsius ideal brood rearing environment. Pretty clever, don't you think? So if you build your hive big enough, that top box is always going to be honey, which makes me think, why do you really need a queen excluder? Anyway, give it a go. It's just my opinion. Let's look into this hive just to see if there's any brood in that honey, because if there's one or two brood in there, you might cut it out, but really it makes things messy, and no one wants mashed baby bees in their honey, let's face it. So let's see if my theory's correct. Let's get into it. Isn't she beautiful? Look at that. Yeah, so as you can see, a few guard bees coming out to bounce off my visor. Not real happy, cloudy day, but you got to do what you got to do. As you can see, whilst this is a 10 frame deep polystyrene box, I've only gone with 9 frames in the top. I do that also with my I call them 7 frame, 8 frame boxes. I only put 7 in the top. That allows the bees to build out a nice thick heavy frame of honey, and also it makes them less inclined to want to put brood in the top box, because you don't have that perfect bee space they talk about in beekeeping. It's extra roomy, less ideal for brood, more ideal for honey. Let's check it out. So outer frame, of all the frames, probably least likely to be fully capped. Being as careful as we can. And look at that. Doesn't come more fully capped than that. I wish you could feel the weight of that. That's chock-a-block. Bloody beautiful. So if there is going to be brood, it's more likely to be in these middle frames. Oh. Bloody beautiful. Chock-a-block. So, as per normal, I like to set my frames down to the side of the box. Let the bees work their own way off them. Once again, Shockers. I never get sick of the sight of that. To me, there's not too many more beautiful things in this world. Alright, getting towards the middle now. And what do you know? No brood whatsoever. Not one single cell. Whoops. Bit of an unfortunate tear there. That's the only thing you've got to be careful of with extra wide frames of honey. You can see the thickness of that honey bulging out to either side of the frame. Now we've got to shake some of the bees back in. So just have a look down there, just to prove no queen excluder, no magical trickery going on here at all. One very happy beekeeper. The bees aren't so happy though, so we'll get them closed up and get this lot extracted. What do you reckon? Did you know an average worker bee will only create in its whole lifespan, which varies depending on the season, from anywhere from 8 weeks up to 12. Did you know that the average worker bee will only accumulate a teaspoon of honey in its whole life? So imagine how many times that little worker bee's got to squeeze through that tiny little gap just for a teaspoon of honey. Doesn't seem right. Anyway, now we're going to have a look at the top box, which is a traditional Langstroth 8 frame, like I said before, with 7 honey frames in the top, hopefully. Here we've got 2 plastic versions down the bottom and a timber one up top. I like to keep the timber up top because you get less condensation, which of course isn't an issue in the polystyrene. Another benefit. Righto, let's get into this one. As you can see, nowhere near as full of bees as the last one. Squash a few hive beetle as we go, it's always fun. And I can see straight away, not quite as much, there's a few out of frame, or maybe 2 out of frames that aren't capped. Let's bring them out and have a look. There's plenty of activity from the entrance of this hive, so they're doing all right. But yeah, only half capped, not good enough to extract from. Still a little bit too liquid in that state. If we extracted that, it would begin to turn into mead. which is alright if that's your thing. But me, I'm after the pure stuff. Well glued down this one. Oh, pretty good there. But, yep, I'm going to leave this one behind too. Might be alright, but not worth taking the risk on a whole batch. I've also found it's good to get even numbers of frames, just in terms of keeping your extractor in balance. As you could imagine, if it's all loaded up on one side, you got to ride the thing like a bucking bronco. Well, that's good enough for me. Look at that. I just wish I didn't have this veil on. Check it out. Alright, we're getting towards the middle again now. Will there be any brood? This is the actual middle frame of 7. No brood, people. Nothing up the sleeve. You bloody beauty. Oh, and the smell. I wish you could smell this. Very floral. Whereas my last harvest was very much malty, with sort of molasses overtones. Once again, another extractable frame with no brood. Alright, I'm going to have to do my maths. What do we got? 3 extractable frames plus 9 in the shed makes 12, which is perfect. Because this one, a bit of open comb, I think I might leave it behind. There's plenty of those bees to draw on if times get tough. Close them up for now. Actually, should bash those bees off. Feel like going for a spin? Off to the extractor we go.
Oh, Jesus! Bit of weight there.
How'd you go? This is another part of the job I always look forward to. It's uncapping that first frame so that I can dip my finger in and find out what sort of flavour the girls have delivered this time round. Can you look at the thickness in that? It's a really weighty frame. As a liquid, honey is 1.5 times as heavy weight per volume as water. I'm pretty sure I got that fact right. I'll look it up anyway and get back to you.
Aussie backyard.
Here we go.
Bit
Look at all that honey getting flung out from the frames and accumulating in the bottom. Ooh yeah. There we go, 100% empty. Well, the little bit of honey that's left there, the bees will clean up in a flash when I put these frames back in to be refilled over the next few weeks. Not a bad system. Just look at the thickness in that. That is just what beekeepers aim for. This is what it's all about. If you love your honey, there's nothing more beautiful. There's no more beautiful a sight than a heavy, thick frame of honey. So you can see the difference in colour in this frame, and it's got a totally different flavour. I think this is an older frame. It was probably mostly filled back in last summer, last autumn perhaps even. And it really has that bloodwood, which is a gum species that grows around here, a bloodwood sort of influence, heavy influence. You can really taste those molassesy flavours. It's just beautiful. If I just run my finger through that, you can see just how dark it is. Strong flavoured. I know I go on about it, but here's another work of beauty. Look at that. So solidly capped. No open cells in it. As thick as buggery. And I don't know, 6 kilos? Conservative estimate? Alright, I'll get back into it now, and I promise I won't show off. Slow and steady is the go, I've discovered, to start out, so you don't destroy the wax comb and create unnecessary extra work for your bees, particularly on the first side, because it's actually copying all the weight from the second side. So I might even half extract the first side, flip it over, do the second side, then back to the first.
Aussie, backyard.
Okay, for contrast, look how light that one is. And I reckon it will have its own unique flavour. Let's find out. Wow. Actually, this one's my favourite. Really floral. You can taste the flowers. It's just... You can really see how it's like smelling flowers with your mouth, if that makes any sense. Bloody beautiful. And that's what it's all about. Liquid gold on tap. Ooh, yeah. Okay, so now it's time to put our sticky frames back in our boxes for the bees to get straight on with refilling. I'm going a bit light on with the gear as you can see, because not only are our frames sticky, but so is the weather. So hopefully the bees are going to be kind to me, and they've forgiven me for robbing them earlier this morning. The good news is our smoke is still lit. Easy does it, girls. Cut a bit of this burr comb out of the way while we can, while we've got the chance. There you go, you can hear that buzz, that hum, that angry noise starting to calm straight down as soon as they smell the honey. Get them roughly evenly spaced. Hive map. It's a good example of how you can use your smoker as a bit of a tool to drive your bees down if they're in the way. Down you go. It's inevitable that you're going to squash some bees, but you know, you try and minimise it. Right, come on. So not only were they pretty good about me robbing them earlier today, but now the girls are even helping me clean up. How's that? These wax cappings have just about finished draining, and this honey is just about ready to go into storage. Another successful honey harvest done and dusted. Here I have a jar of my March 2017 harvest, and here's a jar from yesterday's harvest. Strong and dark, light and floral. It never ceases to amaze me how one harvest can differ from another in taste, but that to me is part of the beauty of it. Each harvest has its own unique, never to be repeated flavour. 100% raw, sugar or sucrose free, which you can't say for the majority of honeys that you'll buy in the supermarket. Often they've got a high percentage of sucrose, and it's pretty hard to identify that as a consumer. Often even roadside honey, you'll drive past and you see $10 a kilo. Well, I'll have to question the quality of that sort of honey. I don't know how a beekeeper can really make a living, or even any sort of a reasonable profit from honey that's sold for that price. But anyway, it doesn't bother me because my honey's not really for sale. It just goes to friends and family, and of course us as a household. So that just about concludes this episode, but I'd like to encourage you, if you have any beekeeping related questions or backyard food production questions, to fire a few questions at me. Leave them down in the comments section below. But one question that I'm not real comfortable in answering is a question I get asked quite often is, Shauno, why could you possibly need quite so much honey? Well, folks, I don't know, some questions are just a little bit too personal to ask or even especially answer. So anyway, I'll leave you to ponder that. But thanks for watching. I really appreciate it. Until next time, catch you later.